Hey guys, Rex here, and welcome back for another Redstone tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to build this fully AFK-able automatic blaze farm. Now I had the idea for this farm a few months ago, and I think I've finally come up with something that works pretty well, so let's take a look. But the very first thing I want to mention in this video, so there's no confusion, is to please read the description. I'll be putting answers to frequently asked questions, along with any clarifications or updates in the description, so please read it before you comment. And with that said, let's see what this farm is all about. So the way that this farm operates is actually pretty simple. It has both a manual mode and an AFK mode to suit all of your needs. So to get started, just give this lever over here a flick and the spawner will start spawning blazes. Then, if we want to use the AFK mode, we stand right on this pressure plate right here, look right in the center of this column of blocks, and then we hold the right mouse button. Now that can be achieved by putting a weight on your mouse, changing your controls and adding a weight on your keyboard, or any other method that will allow you to continuously hold the use item button. As the farm runs, blazes will be collected in the far left and far right chambers. Each of those chambers has a weighted pressure plate that will count the number of blazes in that chamber, and when the blaze count passes a customizable threshold, the blazes will all be pulled into the center chamber using the new piston translocation behavior that was introduced in 1.9. The blazes will be crushed until they have only one hit point left, a potion will be dispensed, and because you're holding right click, the potion will be thrown, killing the blazes and giving you the XP that the blazes drop. The blaze rods will be collected in a hopper underneath, then the whole process repeats itself until you step off of the pressure plate. When using the manual mode of the farm, blazes will continue to accumulate in the left and right pods. And when you think there are enough blazes that you'd like to kill them, you can press this button, which will once again trigger the mechanism, crushing the blazes and then dispensing a potion for you to kill them. Now, one last note about this farm is that you should never exit the world while there are large numbers of blazes in these side chambers, because for some reason, when you reload the world, they explode out of this chamber and go everywhere, and that is not good news. So, manually activate the farm or move far enough away for the blazes to despawn before you exit the world. So before we move on to the tutorial section of this video, I'd like to show you how some aspects of this farm work. And let's start off with the on and off mechanism. So blazes need a light level of 11 or lower in order to spawn, and as you can see, basically this whole upper chamber here is filled with lava, which is making it too bright for the blazes to spawn. But once we flick this lever, it's going to toggle the state of this torch tower here, which is going to activate this dual edge monostable circuit, which will toggle all four of these dispensers, removing the lava and allowing blazes to spawn. So next we're going to move on to one of the more interesting parts of this farm, which is the spawning chamber itself. So here we have a 9x9 spawning chamber, which means that any blazes that attempt to spawn will have the space to spawn and therefore will spawn, with the exception of any that try and spawn on top of the spawner. And here we have a pillar to stop those guys from spawning and clogging up the cap. As well, the chamber is deep enough so that when the blazes spawn, they will instantly fall down and land on this floor. And when they're on this floor, they will be out of the range of the spawner for its 6 entity cap, so that the spawner's efficiency will never be compromised by the blazes being collected at the bottom. The next thing we're going to talk about is the apparent lack of funnel mechanism to get the blazes into the bottom chambers. Now, most blaze farm designs use a piston mechanism or a minecart mechanism or something like that to force the blazes into one central point, but this one doesn't have that. Instead, the collection mechanism is powered by an innovative system that uses the blaze's AI. So when a blaze falls down, he's going to sit on this floor, and after a little while, his movement AI is going to trigger. And when it does, unlike these guys right here who aren't cooperating, it's pretty likely that they're going to decide, like that guy, to move across to the other side of the room. And when they do, they're going to fall right in this trench that we have going across the room, which is too deep so they can't jump back out. And the blazes that get stuck in here are going to push each other around, and then they're going to fall into these two side holes that I don't know if you can see because there's so many blazes inside, and there's a bunch of smoke here. You can tell that that's where the hole is, and there's one on the other side too. There's a hole that, it's smoke in my face, smoke in my face. And yeah, so that's how it works. And because the holes are at the sides, it makes it very easy for the blazes to fall in because they can push each other right up against the wall and into the hole. If there was one hole in the middle, then when the blazes push each other around, or if there's too many blazes in here, they're going to start to push each other over the hole, and that would be problematic. So that is how the funnel system works, and I think it is really cool. But some of you might be thinking, hey Rex, isn't this way less efficient than having a redstone blaze funnel that forces the blazes into a central point? Well, the answer is actually no. While it seems like it would be less efficient to have this kind of AI system here, if you think about it, the rate at which the blazes are falling into this bottom chamber is the same rate at which they are spawning. It's just that we've got a lot of blazes stuck in the middle here, which means there's a bigger buffer between the spawner and the collection system. And the effect of that is that the farm will take a little longer to start up, but since this is an AFK farm, that doesn't really matter since we plan to be there for a long time anyway. And you might also be wondering about lag with this system. If there's too many blazes, it might start to cause some lag. But I've had this farm running for quite a while, and this is sort of the maximum amount of blazes that you'll ever get in here. And as you can see, I am not having any problems with lag right now, so I think you should be good to go. So all in all, I think this AI funnel system is an excellent way of saving space and resources when you're building a blaze farm that is just as efficient as one if you did have a redstone funnel. Alright, and lastly, we're going to quickly cover how some of the redstone works. So, as you can see, there's the pressure plate there, the button there, and the lever there. The lever is a completely independent system from the button and or I guess this is the button, that's the pressure plate, and the weighted pressure plates. So, when we are standing on the pressure plate, that activates the AFK mode. And it's going to power this redstone line going throughout the bottom here. And it's going to turn off this torch, which turns off this little bit of redstone right here, which, as you can see, is running into this comparator, which is coming right from the weighted pressure plate is on top of that block right there. So basically, when nobody's standing on the pressure plate, it's not going to allow any signal from this comparator to come out, and once this piston gets triggered, that's going to trigger the whole mechanism. And so if we are standing on the pressure plate, this will be off and allow signal to get through from the weighted pressure plate. But additionally, it's going to be subtracted, or this signal here is going to be subtracted from it. So the signal from the blazes must be greater than this signal coming out of the furnace, which is the customizable threshold that I talked about, in order for the mechanism to trigger. Now, obviously, the higher this is, the more blazes need to be on the pressure plate, which means it's going to be a little bit laggier, but you're going to save on potions. And, obviously vice versa if you have less signal strength here. And once again, this button is just going to come right into this piston, and it's going to trigger the mechanism once again. And we've got the same on the other side, and both weighted pressure plates will trigger this redstone line, which triggers the whole system. So all of the redstone after the system gets triggered is pretty straightforward. As you can see, it's going to come up here and go into this piston, and then another delay, and it's going to go into that piston, and using the new 1.9 translocation behavior, that's going to bring the blazes into the center chamber. The same thing happens on the other side here. Now, the next thing we want to do is power this piston here, which is going to suffocate the blazes. So as you can see, the signal comes up here into this pulse extender, which is going to make the pulse just long enough that it suffocates the blazes so that they have one hit point left. And at the same time, it's going to power this redstone torch, which is going to turn this redstone line off. So this redstone line goes off when the blazes are being suffocated while this pulse extender is active. And then when this deactivates, it's going to repower this redstone line, which is going to shoot this dispenser, or dropper rather, and it's going to give you a potion. And because you're holding right click, it's going to spit that out and hit the blazes, and then all of their items are going to be sucked into this chest right here, and the XP is going to sort of spew out just a little bit, but it's all eventually going to get to you. Most of it just comes right out this chute here, and we have this trapdoor so that the XP can flow right across. If we didn't have the trapdoor, then it would get stuck on the lip here because the chest is slightly lower than a block. But yeah, since we have the trapdoor, all of the XP is going to get to you. So that is how this farm works. Alright, it's time to move on to the tutorial. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to find yourself a blaze spawner and block it off so that the blazes can't spawn. Now, if you're in creative mode, you can give yourself a spawner using this command right here, and then you can right-click on it with a blaze egg to turn it into a blaze spawner. But if you're in survival, you'll obviously need to go find a blaze spawner in another fortress. Then, to block it off, build a 9 by 9 by 2 area of blocks like this, centered on the blaze spawner with the spawner in the lower layer. And this way, there's a block occupying every space where a blaze could spawn, so that they'll be unable to spawn from the spawner while you're building your farm. And for this area here, you'll probably want to use a cheap block like netherrack or cobblestone, because it's likely that you're going to lose it when we add in the lava. So the next thing you're going to want to do is to build an 11 by 11 by 11 box around your spawner. And you're going to leave a slot in the center of the bottom like so, just like I showed earlier. So if you fly into the inside, it should look like this. Now up here, you're going to have your spawner, and you're going to place 2 solid blocks on top of your spawner, and then the ceiling after that. So there should be a 1 block gap in between those blocks that you place to stop the blazes from spawning and the ceiling. Then you're going to add a whole layer of signs right underneath the blocks that you placed here, and that's going to stop the lava from flowing down into the bottom of the chamber. So you can just start placing signs on the back wall, and then to place signs on those signs, you're going to have to hold shift click, and you can do that and just fill up the whole thing with signs. So let's do that right now really quickly. So it should look something like this when you're done. Now we're going to come around to the bottom, and we're going to add our center channel. So you can build this 1 block down, so you're extending your channel down a little bit to make it too high so they can't jump out of the channel. And then we can put in our floor. So I'm just going to extend this 1 more layer like this, and then we're going to add a floor in the whole thing except for the 2 end blocks. So it should look like this when you're done. There's 2 blocks, so you can't jump out of it, and then there's a hole at either end like so. So next up, we're going to work on our blaze containment chambers. So you're going to come around to the front and just build a couple blocks down, and then we're going to build a platform going out here, and you can leave out that side block, and we're just going to build it all the way to the other side like this, and then back up. And what we're going to do is we're going to replace these 2 middle blocks with half slabs, and that's going to allow the XP to come out. Then we can place 2 weighted pressure plates at the side, so they should be right underneath the holes in this top section. And then you can place your pistons that you're going to need to move the blazes into the center. So 1 right next to the hole like this, and then leave a space, and then another one like that. Then you can come to the other side and place 1 like this. And yeah, basically the same thing, so it should look like this when you're done. And then you can come back here and place a sticky piston and I'm going to make this one special because this block is going to be the one that is suffocating your blazes. Then you can come around to the back and just sort of seal up this area like this. And then you're going to want to leave gaps here where your pistons are so that you can put redstone there. Like this and like that. So it should look a little like this when you're done. And then you can come around to the front and just fill in the remaining gaps here. And if you want, you can put glass in the center just so you can see the blazes, and that's what I like to do. You can make the whole thing glass, or you can do what I'm doing here and just make windows in it, or you can do really whatever you want. But that is our blaze containment chambers done. So as you can see, I've added a couple more things here. So first up, we have a floor going across here. And then I added the pressure plate, which must have a 4-block gap between the pressure plate and the wall. And that way the pressure plate is close enough to the wall that you can hit the blazes with the potions, but it's also far enough away so that you don't hit yourself with a potion, which would pop you into the wrong position, and it would also hurt you, obviously. Now, I've also added the lever here and the button here. Now those can really go wherever you want. I'm just putting them here for the sake of the tutorial, and when we get onto the redstone you can just wire it up to wherever you have your lever and button. And the same goes for this dropper. Now I've chosen to put it with a 4-block gap and then a downwards facing dropper above my head and then a hopper and a chest on top. Now you can put this wherever you want, so long as when the dropper activates you're going to get the potion when you're standing on the pressure plate 100% of the time. Now obviously you're going to want to put it somewhere where you can have a hopper on top and then a chest or your favorite potion brewing system to refill it so that, you can use it more than 9 times. And then the other thing you're going to want to do is come around to the bottom, and then right underneath your 2 half slabs that you placed, you're going to want to place 2 hoppers, and then you can either have them going into a chest right here, or you can hook it up to your own system. And then if you did put a chest, you're going to want to put a trapdoor here so that the XP can flow across like that. And so it's finally time to move on to the redstone. But as you can see, I've taken a quick second to pretty this thing up and just made it look a little better. So the first thing we're going to do for our on and off mechanism is to come up to the top and place in some dispensers with lava buckets. So you're going to want to place those here, 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 and here. The placement's not super critical, but as you can see, it's 3 blocks from the edge here. I've got 3 blocks, and then where I put my dispenser. And then you're going to go in underneath. You're going to need to break a couple of these. Place your dispenser, plug it back up, and then plug the ceiling back up, and you're going to want to put a lava bucket in your dispenser and all of the other dispensers. So I will do that really quick. So now you should have your 4 dispensers with lava in them. So next we're going to connect them all up, and we can do that really simply with a redstone wire like this, and you're going to extend it out 2 blocks on the end like that. Then you can come down to wherever your lever is. If your lever is here like mine is, then you can just do exactly what I'm doing. And I'm going to place a torch tower like so, and just keep going up and up and up to carry the signal. And then when I get to the top, it really doesn't matter whether this last signal is on or off. You're going to place a sticky piston and then put a what are these called? Redstone block on the end. So now you should see that there's lava in the chamber. I can see the lava just like that. And now when I flick my lever to the on state, now if you don't have a lamp, it really doesn't matter some of the time, but this is going to be my on state. And then you can see that dispensers have toggled and removed all of the lava. And then I can give it another flick to the off state, and then it will put the lava back. So now it's time to do the bulk of the redstone at the back here. So you're going to start by pulling a signal from this block here, and on top of there is your weighted pressure plate. So you're going to want to put a comparator here, set to subtract mode, and you're going to want a sticky piston with a block on top right there. And that is going to be the monostable circuit that activates the entire system. Next, you're going to want to put a block here with a redstone dust, and then we're going to hook that up to your pressure plate by just making a line of redstone. Mine is right on top of that diamond block right there. So I'm going to put a line of redstone going one past my hopper and then out like this into a block, and that's going to have a redstone torch on the side which should power that redstone. Then you're just going to wire it up with a redstone wire like so. And then you're going to come back here and place a block with a comparator going into that comparator. And then here, you're going to want to place a block of your choice that emits the signal strength of your choice into this comparator. Now the higher the signal strength is coming out of this one, the more blazes are required to be on the pressure plate before the system will activate. The more blazes that are required per cycle, the less potions you're going to use up, but the laggier it's going to be. And I'm also going to put a table in the description which shows the signal strength from this comparator with respect to the number of blazes required to activate the system. And in this case, I'm going to use a furnace with 14 items inside, which means this is going to give a signal strength of 2, but I would recommend putting a higher signal strength there. So just figure out what will emit the signal strength that you want. You can find the signal strength that you want down in the description and then go from there. So then what you can do is you can take what you've built on this side and mirror it on the other side. So it should look like this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to connect these 2 pistons up together so that either one will activate the system. So we're going to put a 2-tick repeater coming out of each one, and that's going to make it so there's a 2-tick pulse coming out of this monostable circuit. And then we're going to put some blocks like so in this pattern, and we can just put redstone dust on all of them. And then we're going to put 4 half slabs here because we want to wire that signal into these 4 pistons. And to do that, we can just have redstone going into the outer ones because we want those to activate first. And then the inner ones can have a 4-tick repeater going into each of them so that they activate afterward. Next, we're going to test our system. So to do that, you can put a repeater going into either this piston or that piston, and then wire that up to wherever you have your manual activation button. In this case, mine is right here, and so I'm going to put a redstone dust and a repeater so it doesn't mess with this redstone, and another redstone dust. So when we fly around and hit our button, we should see that the outer pistons, then the inner pistons activate. And there we go. So next up is the suffocation and potion dispensing mechanism. So what we're going to do is we're going to come and place a couple blocks like this, and then a half slab here and a block here. Now, what we can do is place some redstone on these ones, and a 4-tick repeater here, and a 4-tick repeater here. So how this works is the redstone signal that is only 2 ticks long from this monostable here is going to come along this redstone wire and come up this half slab and into this 4-tick repeater. And that's going to make the pulse last for 4 ticks. But then as well, 4 ticks later, it's going to come up again into this repeater and then make it last for an additional 4 ticks because it will have passed through this repeater by the time it gets into it again from that repeater. And the reason we need the pulse to last 8 ticks is because the pulse extender we're using is going to need at least a 7-tick input pulse to extend to what it does extend to. I don't know quite exactly how long that is. And then to power this piston, which is our suffocator piston, we're going to put a redstone dust on top of here, and then because we don't want it to interfere with this, we need to put some blocks on the side. We're going to put a block on top, and then just build a little platform around here like that. And then we're going to have 2 redstone here, or 2 blocks rather, and then a block up like this. And then you can place 2 redstone here with 3 repeaters, or not repeaters, comparators going in here, and then 4 going the other way, oops, like that. So it should look like this when you have those in. And then 2 redstone dust here. Now this is a comparator pulse extender. I'm sure a couple of you, or most of you, have seen these, but I'm going to explain it anyway. So what happens is when a strong signal comes in the back, it's going to go around in a loop here. But every time it reaches this section, because there's 2 pieces of redstone, it's going to decrease 1. And then so every time it goes around, it's going to decrease and decrease and decrease slowly because there's a delay here. And that is just going to make this signal diminish and diminish and diminish slowly until it reaches 0. And then by that point, the piston is going to retract because obviously the signal's off. So the last portion of redstone we have to do is to just activate our dropper here. And the way we're going to do that is to take a signal coming out of here, our pulse extender, and we're going to put a repeater with a redstone torch, and then we're going to hook up that redstone torch to our dropper. So just like this, and then because of the way I have it set up here, I don't want this redstone to power the hopper and not allow any more potions to come in, so I'm just going to put a button here to redirect it. Now, the way that works is when the blazes are being suffocated, this redstone is going to be on, which turns off the torch and then doesn't power the dropper. But when the blazes are done being suffocated, this is going to turn back off, which means the torch is going to turn on and the dropper is going to activate. So now you can be proud of yourself. You're finished the redstone for this farm. So now you can head on inside and take out all of those blocks that you placed right at the beginning to stop the blazes from spawning. Then you can turn your farm on and give it a quick tester. And it should work just like that. And then if you continue to stand there and hold the right mouse button, you should be able to operate the farm completely AFK, which is super awesome. So congratulations, you have now built yourself a fully AFK-able automatic blaze farm. Now if you have any questions or comments about this farm, then please feel free to leave them down in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, then I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video, because it took me forever to record. Many things went wrong during the recording of this video, and it ended up taking me way longer than it should have. But it's here, and that's what matters. But unfortunately, that's all I have for you today, guys, and I will see you soon. Rex out.